So when it comes to weighted mean, quite often you'll have a table like this. Quite often, I'd say most of the time it's presented as a table. And so we did percentages, and today we're going to talk about repetition as well. I just want to talk about percentages a little bit more. When you have a weighted mean entry in your study sheet, it should be under statistics, obviously. You've done mean, median, mode, trimmed mean. Now we're talking weighted mean. There should be percentages, repetition. Essentially, how we tackle weighted mean scenarios is you're always going to get mad, right? That is your go-to there. Sorry, I'm going to switch booklets here because this is yours. This is yours. You're still going to get mad, right? Multiply, add, divide. So you multiply across. And so sometimes the tables are vertical. Sometimes they're horizontal. It shouldn't matter to you. Like multiply across categories, right? Like 45 times 39, you're still in the score category, so that wouldn't make sense to multiply this way. You got to multiply across and pair them up. Then you add, then you divide. So here's the one kicker, the one thing that I need you to be aware of. So we're going to go to page 40 and do that example together. I know some of you already did that, but I feel like you're still going to need to add something to this one here. Question 5 on page 40. Okay, the following table shows the results of number of electronic devices households own. Okay, so you've got number of devices and percentages. And remember, I told you when there are percentages, you want to check to see if it adds up to 100, and it does. Okay, so that means that when you perform MAD, when it comes to the division part, you're going to divide by 100. That's what that means. So the D is taken care of. You're not going to have to guess which one you're going to use. So this is the part where I want you to, you got to make sure you have this written down. So the MAD part, right, the multiplying is going across like this. Okay. And some of you might want to just come up with the answers right here. Maybe I will show you the longer way, right? 1 times 2 plus 2 times 7 plus 3 times 10. So I'll write them all out, my multiplication and the addition. 4 times 15. Hope you can see that. Plus 5 times 21 and so forth. So all my multiplication is shown here. This is probably the proper way of showing your work, even though I would allow you to just put the results right by the table. That is fine. 10 times 7. And I'm just going to check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got 9 multiplications, and they're all being added. All of that gets divided in this case by 100. I'm going to clean it up even more here. So this gives you 2, right? 1 second, I'm on the wrong page here. There we go. So this is 2 plus 14 plus 30 plus 60 and so forth. That is 105 plus 112 plus 63 plus 70. Oh, I think I missed one. 102, that's right. Sorry. Let's try this again. 102 plus 112 plus 63 plus 70. Morning. All of that divided by 100. And now we're almost ready to come up with our final answer here. If you add up all your products, okay, you get 558. All of that divided by 100. and that would be 5.58. And this is really only worth half a mark, the next part, right? The unit mark. What units would you put down here? Because you've got percentages and you've got the top represents number of devices, right? What unit would you attach to this? And if you're not sure, this is how you come up with that. So I call this the unit analysis. If you want to know what units remain, this is what you do. Right now, whenever you were multiplying, what were you multiplying? You were going devices times percentages. Right? You were always going devices percentages. So whatever your units are, just show them here. What are you multiplying every time? Morning. Page 40. And when you divide it by 100, what were you dividing by in terms of units? 100%, correct? So technically, you were dividing by percent. So these two percentages, what happens to them when you have, right? It's like multiplying and dividing. You get to cancel that out. You get to say, well, if I was multiplying devices and percentages and I ended up dividing by percentages, I'm left with devices. So now you know for sure and I know you're like, all that work just to make sure I don't lose the half mark? Yes, but that's what it would take here if you have a hard time deciding what units am I left with. You got to do this on the side here. Okay. Always? Technically, that's what we do every time. So this is the new part here. So if you see that on my key, that's what I'm doing there. Okay. You did that before as well, Mr. Dirksen? Technically. Watch this. I'm going to go back to 39 for a bit. For example, when we found our final mark here, we multiplied percentages times percentages, correct? And then we divide it by 100%. So you're left with percentage because, right, two percentages, one of them cancels out and you're still left with percentage. So it works every time. Okay, that's what our when it's some final mark question, it's going to be percentage. But it still works. The unit analysis still works. Okay, so that's 40. I wanted you to try one more. If you go to 41, I'm going to ask you to do that in a bit. This one right here. With the unit analysis and everything. Please disregard the rounded to the nearest dollar, the mean spending. Just disregard that. The province will always ask you to round to 2 decimals. Okay, so don't worry about that part. Before you do 41, though, I want to do another backwards example with you. One more. So you can't say I didn't have enough examples. So this is on page 42. We did this on Friday. If you weren't here, the video's up. Right? Towards the end of the lesson, I talk about backwards. And this one is a little trickier because you've got things multiplying. Even your x, right? Even your x is being multiplied by something, by a weight. So, and then this is the question you're going to ask yourself, what do I need on my final exam to get a certain average, right? And this is basically what I will do with you if that's what you want to find out. So let's go to 43. There are 2 questions like these. I'll do one of them. And then I'll give you a little bit of class time to practice both. And we'll continue to the weighted mean involving repetition. 43. Gazelle earned 90% on her assignments in geography, 85 on the quizzes. Right? So these are the 2 categories here. The assignments are worth 10% of the final grade. The quizzes are worth 40%. And the exam is worth 50. Okay. Gazelle would like to earn a final grade of 65. Okay. Earn final of 65. what would you need to score on the exam? Explain what the answer is telling you. Okay. So I don't know if you want to make a little table, score and weight. Right, 90% on assignments, 85 on quizzes, and it's asking what should you get on your exam. Right? So these are basically the three categories. When it comes to the assignments, what's the weight there? It's 10%, right? Quizzes are worth 40%. And the final exam is worth 50%. You could have had that, right? Assignments, quizzes, exam if you wanted to. But this is just to organize our thoughts a little bit. Percentages, right? This one adds up to 100. It should be. If it's like grades in a course, the category should add up to 100%, but I'm just going to show you that that's the case. So D is taken care of. What we're dividing by is taken care of. So to find your average, it's 90 times 100. Sorry, 90 times 10 plus 85 times 40 plus x times 50, or 50x. I'm just going to go 50x like that. Divided by 100. And I don't know if you've noticed, Mr. Dirksen, why aren't you converting your percentages to decimals? Right? I don't know if you've noticed it with all these questions. If you do it the way I'm doing it, you don't need to worry about it in this unit, right? Just use the numbers as they are, and you'll be fine. Okay? Okay. We want this. This is given to us, right? So we're going to take the average, our final goal, and plug it in there. And let's clean it up. So you've got 65 here. This is 900. This part right there is going to be 3,400. And our final is 50x. All of that divided by 100. We can clean that up even more. Like these two that add, right? We get 4,300 plus 50x divided by 100. Morning. 43, page 43. So now what? Get rid of the 100 first. By the way, you don't have to tackle 100 first, but if you don't, it's going to actually be very messy. So I'm just giving you the easiest way to solve these things. So get rid of the 100. You multiply both sides by 100. You get to cancel. So this is 6,500 is equal to 4,300 plus 50x. And it's going to be tight here. Should have left myself a bit more room. I take away the 4,300 to cancel here. So I'm left with 50x over, or on the other side, it's 2,200. Last but not least, divide by 50. And I think it would be fair to have an example on your study sheet when it comes to weighted mean backwards. Have one with weighted mean and one without a weighted mean situation. So you cancel the 50s, and I'm just going to have a final line on the side here that x is going to be 44%. It is possible since less than 100% is needed. So I'm just mentioning this because if they ever ask you, is it possible, it has to do with whether or not it is 100% or less. If it's over 100%, it is impossible, right? You would say it's not possible. So I want you to try this one more time, except for now Gazelle changes the goal to 95%. So instead of a 65, right, instead of the 65 here, you just repeat this process, but you're just going to have a 95 on this side. And see if you can do this again step by step. Just make sure you show your steps there. Once you've done this, I want you to go to 42. Sorry, I meant to say 41. So I'm going to say page 43 and 41 for now, until I move on to my next. So take advantage of this opportunity. Give you a couple minutes to warm up your engines, and then we'll continue with more weighted mean when it comes to repetition, where you will have no percentages in those scenarios. All right. Okay. In case you're watching this, it wasn't muted. It was just, I just quickly went over it so you have the key there. So that is impossible because a mark greater than 100% is required.
So what if there's bonuses?
Yeah, we don't go by it. And in fact, the provincial final exam never has a bonus. And actually, any in-house exams we make, we also got rid of bonuses because it skews your final. So, okay, so I'm going to go to 41 real quick and just give you a quick rundown. So remember, later on I'm going to show you examples that do not have percentages, all right? So you got to watch out for that. In this case, when you do notice percentages, it adds up to 100%. I'll say this, if I ever give you one where you have percentages, it doesn't add up to 100, you're going to have to think, what am I going to divide by? You're going to have to do the unit analysis, okay? So what is it asking here? What was the mean spending, right? They're asking you for mean spending. What units would be used for spending? What do you want to remain? You want dollars to remain, right? So that's another thing to look for. It's like, what do I want my final answer to be in? And then that tells you what to divide by at the end. So it adds up to 100, so check. So D is taken care of. So to find the average here, you multiply again, right? 100 times 28. Maybe I'll just write it underneath here. This is 2,800. This is 7,600. 7,500. Please let me know if I make a mistake. 560. This is 2,000. This is 4,800. 3,900. 3,000. And 2,000. Okay, so I just multiply everything out. And, right, it's probably a good idea to show that step. Lots of room there. So you add that all up, and then you know you have to divide by 100 because I've already determined that. And this is not a backwards scenario because the average is not given. You're not like, I want the mean spending to be something, right? So now you can just add everything up. That adds up 39,200. What am I saying there? Divided by 100. That ends up being 392. But sure, some of you just put a dollar amount on there, but remember, you multiplied, every time you multiplied dollars and percentages, right? When you were multiplying, those are the two units you consistently multiplied, okay? And when you divide it by 100, you divide it by percentages, okay? This is the 100%, right? So then you cancel out those two, and you're left with dollars, so you can confidently say that my answer is indeed in dollars. And it is a whole amount anyways. So in that case, it's okay to say to the nearest whole dollar, right? So there we go. Weighted mean involving percentages. Okay, now we're going to do repetition. You'll find that it's about the same, except for this unit analysis is going to be very critical in that point because you won't always divide by 100. So let's keep going to page 44. So this is weighted mean, page 44. Okay? Weighted mean involving repetition, so multiple items. Before I dive into the tables, I'll kind of break down why we use a weighted mean situation when there's repetition, multiple items of the same. Okay? So for example, in this case, you see a bunch of 3s there, a bunch of 4s, a bunch of 7s, and a bunch of 9s, right? So in this case, you've got 3 of them. You've got 6 4s, 2 of those, and you've got 7 9s. Okay? So normally, the normal way of doing this, I don't know, I find that this is very, very painful, but I'm just going to do this anyways. So you see the alternative. There are 6 4s, right? 6 of them, 2 7s, and there's 7 9s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. And how many values do we have in total? 3 and 6 is 9, plus 2 is 11, plus 7 is 18. So 18 values, and it also told you up here that there's 18 values anyways, but we divide by 18 nonetheless. If you do the top, maybe just trust me today, 110 divided by 18, that's 6.11 shoes that were sold. Because this represents the number of shoes sold over an 18-day period. We could do the median, we could do the mode, all of that stuff, but right now we're just going to leave it at that. So on average, we're selling 6.11 shoes. Then it's method number 2. Yep. Sorry. The weighted mean method, it's still going to give us the same answer, okay? But we're going to go like this. There are 3 3s plus there are 6 4. There are 2 7s. And there are 7 9s. all of that over, it's still going to be 18. Because in total we have 3 plus 6 plus 2 plus 7. Slow down, Mr. Erickson. Don't go too fast now. It's the last week before the break. I'm thinking of other things right now. Right? I add up the number of values, which in this case are the red numbers. So that still gives me, if you do the top, you still get 110, and you still have 18 at the bottom. You still get 6.11 shoes. So it's not like we're doing a different average. It's just a different way of calculating it, which is much faster. This is much faster than the top, the alternative, in my opinion. So that's what we're going to attempt here. I'm just going to say this is faster. And to be honest, it's when it, instead of writing out like 7 9s in a row, right, in your list, we can make that very concise and clean it up in a table, in the form of a table. So here we go. This is just a warm-up to what is about to unfold here in the next example. Okay, so here we go. The table to the left shows the average number of hours studied per week. Calculate the average number of hours studied per student. In other words, we want the mean study time. The mean study time. And I think it's fair to say that that would be measured in what? In hours, correct? In this case? That's what we want. So guess what? You should recognize this. Oh, there's 2 different categories. There's a table here. You should be thinking MAD, right? Multiply, add, divide. So let's do the multiplying first. I think I gave it orange earlier. Okay. So in this case, it's a vertical table. You go from one category, multiply it against the other number on the other category. That's all you need to do there for step number 1. So let's put an X there, meaning you're multiplying. And I think it's okay to just do it right here on the table. So that would be 360. 280 times 4 is 1120. 90 times 5 is 450. And it's 30 times 6, which is 180. So for your mean or weighted mean, we're going to add these up, right? That's A. A is, I'm going to give it a green highlight in a bit. Divided by, that is the kicker, okay? That is the hard part. I'm going to make it sound very scary so that if it's not, you're like, stop making such a big deal out of that, right? It's so easy, like I got it, right? Okay, well, I can deal with that problem. Okay. What do you divide by? Remember before we added up one of these and checked if it's 100%, then we knew we had to divide by 100. Here on the side, please, units, I'm just going to call it units. Like what units are we going to use here? What 2 units were we multiplying the whole time? Students times hours, right? So students times hours. That's what we were doing the whole time. Divided by, what do we want to stay? Like it's asking us for the mean study time in hours, correct? Yeah. We want this to stay. We want hours to stay. So what would we divide by? We would want to divide by students. We want to get rid of students. That sounds wrong, right? That sounds very wrong. In this case, okay? Don't be thinking mean things here. Okay, just students crosses out. So guess what? You're gonna have to go and add the student column, and that value is what you plug in down here. Okay, so let's go here and let's add this up. 120 plus 280 plus 90 plus 30, that's 520. And you're impressed at my mental math skills, right? I have the key right in front of me. Don't kid yourselves here. 520. That is the number I'm going to put down here. And maybe I'll just write students. So it gets a little trickier, but really you're doing the same thing as before. Okay? And maybe down here, if you don't mind, where the 520 is, one more time, you'll just say students, right? And sure, you might want to add up this column too, but I think that would be irrelevant. Like, you don't need to figure out the total number of hours. So let's solve this. If you actually continue to add, you get 2110 divided by 520. And when you do that, that gives you 4.06 hours on average per week. Yeah. Can I just say something here? Technically, whoever did this survey, in their spreadsheet, they have 120 entries of 3 hours. Would that make sense to you? Like, there's three. Like, people that said they studied 3 hours, that happened 120 times. So imagine me giving you a list of 120 threes and then 284s and 95. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that'd be an insane amount of adding you'd have to do. And so that would be very time consuming. So that's why weighted mean, you organize it like this, and then it's much faster to come up with it. Okay? Can I just ask you here, an aside, if I asked you what's the mode in terms of study hours, which one, what would you say? Which one is the most common answer? Yes. 280 students claim to study 4 hours. 280 students. Claim to say 4 hours. I don't know. All right. So that's repetition. So the division, what color did I give it? Pink on the previous? You know what? I'm going to use something other than pink because it doesn't work very well. Like, it kind of smudges everything. Okay. So number of students is what I divided everything by. Okay. Let's see. I think I'm going to ask you to try one right away because it's basically the same. And if you get it wrong, that's fine. I'll go over it in a bit. So let's go to 45. And this is not always a table. Maybe I'll ask you to make a table or think of a table to solve this. So 45, page 45, I don't need you to do two different methods. Okay? I'll just say this is optional. You know what? I'll do this one with you because it's not a table. Yeah. You're welcome. But it could be that it's just a word problem, right? Glenna earned 2 tips of $6, 3 tips of $8, 3 of 10, and 6 tips of $12. You should recognize, like, okay, 2 tips of $6 plus 3 tips of $8, 3 of 10, and 6 of 12. And let me just highlight the number of tips, right? So 2 tips is right there. 3 is that one, right? 3 there, and 6 goes there. So the number of tips multiplies the dollar amounts that you got. You need to divide that by, right? So do that on the side here. You were multiplying tips times dollars this whole time. As you were preparing this, that's what you were doing. Divided by. Right, because ask yourself, like, what does it ask you? It says calculate the mean tip. That would be in dollars, right? Like the mean amount you were getting, the average amount somebody's tipping you. So yes, you want to divide by tips, right? That way you get to end up with dollars, what you want. So we're going to add up all the tips down here. So we're going to go 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 6. This is going to be the number of tips, essentially, this bottom part right here. So you get 12, 24, 30, 72. All of that divided by 6 and 3 is 9, 12, 14. Tips. That adds up to, if you add up all these, that's 138 divided by 14. That gives you $9.86. On average, you're getting about $10 per customer. So again, you should be thinking of MAD, right? So the alternative would have been just go 6 plus 6 and then 8 plus 8 plus 8, right? You keep adding. That would have been another alternative for this. Okay. I'm going to ask you to go to 46. Skip the bottom of 45 and try what we've just done in pages 46 and on. And you got to imagine maybe a table at times. Right? You can imagine a table. But remember, MAD, right? Multiply across, add, and then the division part is probably a bit trickier, but still give it a try and think this through, okay? So page 46, I'll come by and check on you, making sure you're doing all right. Do you want the answers? Maybe I'll just give you the answers so you know you're on the right track. The first one here is 2.12, this one. So if you want to write that down in brackets, 2.12. And question 9 is going to be 1885. So question 9 here, 1885. So you have the 2 answers there for now. I'll look for the key as well. So if you're done this page, just continue as far as you can go.